First of all, Tomo, I want to thank you for bringing me on. And speaking on behalf of myself and Skynet, we're very excited to be, you know, Pheasant, Pheasant Network's market maker for TGE and beyond. We're looking forward to working closely with you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah, we are so excited to host this conversation, and yeah, we are excited about our collaboration.
Likewise. Awesome. So, I mean, yeah, let's start a little bit. Maybe you can start, Tomo, on your side, like about
Yeah, yeah.
a bit of an introduction about what inspired you to start Pheasant Network, as well as kind of your journey in the crypto space. I would love to learn a bit more.
Yes, amazing. Yeah, so Remy, yeah. Let me say hi for the audience first. So, yeah, we are excited to host this conversation following the recent announcement of our partnership and the strategic investment from Skynet Trading. So, yeah, hopefully you will find some useful insight from the conversation. Yes, so with that, let me start with a quick introduction of myself and the network. After that, I'd like to ask Martin to introduce yourself and Skynet. Okay, so once again, my name is Tomo, founder of Pheasant Network. Pheasant Network is an AI-powered, intent-centric cross-chain protocol backed by some Foundation, Optimus Foundation, Polygon Labo, and some venture capital. And recently, we have been focusing on developing like a DeFi super app that takes cross-chain intent to the next level. And we announced our strategic round recently, and we are excited to have Skynet joining us as one of our partners. Yeah, so Martin, could you briefly introduce yourself and Skynet
Yeah,
Trading?
absolutely. So, yeah, speaking on behalf of Skynet, we're also very excited to be working closely with Pheasant Network. And yeah, we're looking forward to the TGE and of course providing market making support beyond that well into the future. From my side, I'll give a quick introduction on myself. So my name's Martin. I joined Skynet at the beginning of the year. However, I'm not new to the market making space at all. Actually, I started one of the first BTC OTC desks in Australia back in 2014, and
Mhm.
since then have worked across capital markets, and then transitioning back into the crypto industry, sort of 2020, with a focus around markets and execution. So this is kind of my background in terms of Skynet. So Skynet's been around since 2019, one of the more established market makers in the space. So of course, I mean, yeah, Skynet provides market making as a service to clients, as well as advisory and support around liquidity structuring, market structuring, TGE strategy, and beyond, of course.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So thank you for introduction. Yeah, let me talk about our collaboration. So one of the reasons we are excited about working with Skynet, of course, with you, is that you have been deeply involved with many projects across different market cycles. So I believe that you have a unique perspective on what separates projects that create lasting value from those that disappear after launch. So we believe infrastructure projects require like a patience, strong partners, and long-term alignment. So yeah, we are excited to build together beyond just this funding announcement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you think about our collaboration, Martin?
I mean, very excited for collaborating, especially like giving like Pheasant's unique positioning, right, in agentic payments. We definitely see this happening in the industry right now, where this will become more commonplace. Payments made by agents on behalf of
Mm.
traders, individuals. So yeah, we definitely see that that's where the space is headed. In terms of like healthy market structure in crypto, I think we're at a point right now where we're seeing the industry transition from sort of what was considered kind of the wild west, and it's becoming very much institutionalized, right? So market infrastructure will always sit at the core. of the industry, as it has. But I guess the role of the market infrastructure, the type of participants that are entering the market are needing to see strong markets
mm,
in order to come in. So that's where I think a lot of the like healthy market infrastructure is very important for token projects as well, especially token projects that are looking to attract institutional actors as well, investors. So yeah, very super important. Another thing I would like to stress as well is, I mean, the like the long like having healthy markets
mm.
is directly correlated with the longevity of a project, right? So and we can get into this a little more, but I mean, yeah, I've been around a little while. I've seen the good, bad, the ugly, and I'm happy to kind of share some insights around kind of what I've seen work for projects as opposed to what hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So we were looking for partners rather than like a simple capital. So building infrastructure is a long-term challenge. So we wanted to work with organizations that understand market structure, liquidity, ecosystem growth, and long-term
Yeah,
execution. So Skynet, yeah, brings experience across multiple market cycle, as I mentioned, and has worked closely with many successful projects. So yeah, which makes them a valuable strategic partners. Yeah, that's exactly how we see it. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, as Martin said earlier, but let's move to like a broader topic. Crypto has matured significantly over the last few years. So, but one challenge remains consistent. So many chains spend years building products and communities. Yet market structure and liquidity conditions often determine how projects are passive after launch. So, but if from your perspective, why is healthy market infrastructure so important for the industry? Yeah, I know you said earlier a bit. So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you can think of it like this, right? So each trading venue is a distribution venue, right? So when you're planning your token issuance, and you're planning your market rollouts, whether that be on DEX or SEX, you got to kind
Mm,
of see each venue is its own distribution channel, and also each venue will also act as a part of price discovery, right?
mm,
For your token, price discovery
exactly.
doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Price discovery will happen across all your exchanges all at once, as the market reacts to price. So it's very important, I believe, for crypto projects to have very like tradable conditions across their
Mm,
markets, meaning tight spreads, deep depth in terms of liquidity,
that,
and that then facilitates natural price discovery, which is what at the end of the day what we're striving for, right? We're striving for that natural price discovery, and that's directly correlated with the liquidity and the market structure that's
mm, mm.
underpinning the market.
I see. Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, many people focus only on like a technology, but sustainable ecosystem require much more than great products. Yeah, personally, I enjoy product development, but in reality, it's difficult to expand the ecosystem through product development around, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of components, right, to having a successful project, I guess, like in the space, and I guess we can really narrow it down to sort of three key components, right?
Mm,
So you have like utility, like a reason
mm,
for the community to have the token, and that can be implemented down the line, or it can be part of the roadmap, but there needs to be an underlying utility, right, to the token. The second is the the market structure, which is where we come in
mm,
as partners. So providing consistent tradable markets for the community, and then the third one is, I suppose, like visibility, or maybe you would call
mm,
it hype or
mm.
marketing, and this
Exactly.
basically generates. visibility for the project. Now, if you have the marketing, you have the hype, but you don't have tradable markets, it's going to be very difficult for the community to get involved, right? Also, if you have tradable markets
Mm,
and no utility, and a lot of marketing, well, not to say there are projects that have achieved significant growth, having two out of those three components, right? But overall, the projects that last, the projects that are proven over time, are ones that satisfy all three criteria, right? So that they
mm.
have healthy markets, they have utility, and they have visibility. So I think that's what ultimately sets apart sort of the long term projects versus the ones that don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. So, yeah, I feel healthy infrastructure benefits everyone.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it helps projects grow sustainably and gives investors more confidence and creates better experience for end users. Yeah, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for your thoughts. So let's move on to the next topic. Uh, One topic many founders are thinking about today is what happens after TGE. So launching a token is often viewed as a major milestone, but in reality, it's only the beginning, in my opinion. So
Very
you
well
have
put.
about,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And,
totally agree with that. And yeah, like some some founders kind of, there's a huge build up to TGE. Of course, it's a significant
mm,
milestone, right, for any project. But that's the beginning of the journey, right? And
exactly.
it's like, what leading up to TGE, of course, I mean, like maybe people don't understand how much work there is involved, in planning a TGE and coming to
Mhm.
market. Decisions that can make or break a project happen 6 months before TGE, right? And I think, like, TGE is a huge milestone, but also, a lot of projects treat it as the finish line. It's not the case, right? So, having a successful TGE, I think definitely there's a couple of factors that come into it, of course, and it's really about planning, right? Your TGE, or your roadmap is your game plan, right? As you approach TGE, like I said, six
Exactly.
months before listing, 6 months before the token generation event, the plans are already being made. The agreements are being done with the investors, with the exchanges, with launch pads, for example, or all these other kind of components, stakeholders, in a token launch. There's a huge amount of moving parts, right? And also, I think a lot of it's for a founder, from a founder's
Mm,
perspective, it's a huge burden to carry as well, Tom. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, because you have so many things. You need to build product. You need to be an expert, of course, in building the product. You need to be an expert in marketing. You need to be an expert in markets. There's so many disciplines, I guess, that a TGE or that a token involves, that I think it's very important to surround yourself with,
mm,
with good partners, knowledgeable partners, partners that have advisors that have been through the process before and can share sort of what's worked, what hasn't. But
mm.
I'd love to hear your view on this.
Yeah, that makes, I completely agree with you. So the top launch doesn't become the finish line. Yeah, as we said earlier. So instead it becomes another like a tool to accelerate growth,
Yeah,
attract users, and strengthen the ecosystem. However, it's also true that there are quite a few factors that are significantly influenced by whether or not we are aware of them in advance. For example, like a market has method and an ideal unlock schedule. So
yeah.
on the other hand, what are some warning signs or mistakes you often see among projects that struggle after launch? People often say that success is hard to replicate, but the failure tends to follow certain patterns, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of factors, because there are so many moving parts. I've seen a lot of mistakes being made, right? Some of those, I mean, specifically when it comes to markets, to market making agreements and things like that. This is a pitfall a lot of projects can
Mm-hmm.
fall into, right? With kind of having the wrong agreements in place with and also, I mean, kind of everything factors into it, right? The sex listing strategy as well, the DEX accessibility. So you want to make sure that you're covered from a distribution standpoint, right? At TGE, when it comes to community, you want to make
Mm.
sure that everything's communicated transparently, unlock schedules, all of this. Like this is something that we owe communities as well. So I think like there are so many components, but what I see a lot of the time where projects struggle is typically very early on. They'll put themselves into some less than ideal terms, or maybe they'll make some commitments with terms that are not super favorable
Mm-hmm.
to them. And then down the line, you don't end up paying for it immediately, right? You don't see the negative effects from these deals being done, a month in or 2 months in. You see there's a knock-on effect, right? That can affect the project long term. So I think, yeah, yeah, I think it comes down to good planning and also sticking to the roadmap, right? Especially when it comes to TGE, no pivots. Like have a game plan, trust in the process, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
follow through. Because I also feel that like any last minute pivots, it can be tempting, right? There's a lot going into like a TGE listings and things like that. But everything's ironed out, everything's kind of transparent prior to, and then I think kind of that's that's
Mm-hmm.
that's a sustainable way to launch.
Yeah, yeah, that's great point. I understand. Yeah, to be honest, that applies to me as well. Yeah, and I'm running a lot from your insights. Yeah.
Yeah, happy there, happy I can give you some
Yeah.
insights. For you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for sharing.
you've done an amazing job, Tomo. Really, like with
Thanks so
what
much.
you've built.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, some of this may overlap with what we have covered too far, but let's make this more practical. So I understand many chains spend enormous effort preparing for TG itself. Yeah, same as us. So, but from your experience, what should we actually focus on after TGE before launching a token? I mean, when it comes to the post-token launch.
Post token launch. I mean, okay.
Exactly.
I mean, from a market making perspective, it's more so about keeping the markets tradable at all times, right? So in terms of that, we'll have you covered. um, the other kind of aspects, right, is that be very visible with what you're building,
Mhm.
with milestones and
Mhm.
things from a product level. I mean, I think a lot of the times, one of the pitfalls I also see is that some projects are building amazing things and they're almost building them in silence. They're not giving it the visibility that it needs, right? So I think communities also really appreciate visibility into product development, into things, and also, I mean, if there is hard lessons learned or if there is pivots that are needed, yeah, I think like be transparent about it with the community.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think these are a lot. There's been a lot of times where I've seen projects kind of make a pivot and not necessarily be very transparent with the
Mhm.
internal workings, and then they wake up one day and it's a totally different product, and the investors are sitting, they kind of feel left out. So I think, I mean, as soon as you open up, as soon as you do the token issuance, you're basically making your product a public product, right? You have community, you have investors, you have
Mhm.
stakeholders. um, so I think it's very important to like build visibly, to ensure, of course, you'll have to celebrate milestones, you know and yeah, to really have participation as well, like from the
Mhm.
community, and
Mhm.
and of course the network, like on the network level, of course, right? You have you keep building a great product, it'll just naturally attract more users, right?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, the reason why I ask you, so for many people, TG is a first time experience.
Hmm.
It might even be their first and last time. So as I mentioned earlier, uh, there are many factors where prior knowledge makes a significant difference. I feel so. So that's why I believe we should listen to the advice of experienced individual like you and of course Skynet.
Hmm.
So yeah, rather than relying on our own experience in terms of
Yeah.
TG, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, planning for TGE is of course, one thing that we do. So we look at kind of tokenomics. We look at, we make some estimates around venues and volumes, and of course we adjust. And our number one job is to basically
Mm,
make like let price discovery take its course, right? So that's our number one job, and to keep the markets tradable.
yeah.
So TGE, of course, we have there is a lot of planning when it comes to TGE. Every market maker has to plan when it comes to a token launch. But I think it's very short-sighted to just look at TGE from a market making perspective, right? We
Hmm.
go a lot deeper, so we look, years down the line, and we look at these like schedules, unlocks, and we work closely with the teams to basically ensure that liquidity is provided in times, whether it be also structured buybacks and things like that. These are all things that we work closely with our clients on.
Mm. Yeah, it's very insightful for us as well. Yeah, thank you for sharing your opinion. Yeah, so to wrap things up, let's talk about the future. So, at Pheasant Network, our vision is to make crypto interaction as simple as expressing intent. So users should not need to understand the infrastructure, liquidity, gas management, or chain-specific complexities. So we want crypto to become accessible through natural interactions powered by AI. So, Martin, from your perspective, what excites you most about the opportunity ahead? You can talk about this specific topic or about crypto in general.
No, I think yeah. So of course, I mean, I think what you guys are building is going to be key, right, to how there's a change happening right now, right, in markets, where infrastructure actually becomes infrastructure, where you no longer have to remember 24 mnemonic word
Exactly.
phrase to interact with a protocol or bridge assets and things.
Mhm.
I think we're moving to a point now where where entry will be seamless, and this will be agentic driven, I believe. So I think this is something very interesting, right? And yeah, the end user doesn't have to understand liquidity. They don't have to understand like the underlying mechanics or the infrastructure or the technology. We're going to get to a point where real mass adoption will happen, and I think AI will be a key driver in that adoption, right?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, we are excited to work with partners who share that long-term vision.
Likewise, likewise. Yeah, happy to be a part of the journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Martin. And thank you, everyone, for
No,
watching.
thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, we are excited about what lies ahead for both teams and look forward to sharing more updates as we continue building together.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today,
Awesome.
Martin.
Thanks.